Welcome, everybody. I'm going to take my mask off. And welcome to everybody who's watching us on Zoom. As you can tell, this is a unique and first time that we've done this. We are now live without much of an audience in person, but we're thrilled to be here. And obviously, our guest, Robert Ford, CEO and president of Abbot, has joined me. So on behalf of Boston College and the Carroll School of Management, welcome to this session of Conversations with CEOs as we welcome Robert Ford, our guest, and most notably, a proud Boston College alum. So Robert, thank you for joining us here today, live in person at Boston College.
Thanks. This is great to be here and to do this live face-to-face. So I think it's great.
Yeah, it's really spectacular to be in person, to feel like we're headed towards normalcy. If everyone noticed, we're wearing our masks. We've both been tested very recently within the past day or so. We're going to keep our distance, but we are here together. The session will work the way all of our Zoom sessions has. This will run for 75 minutes. The first 30 minutes, Robert and I will engage in a conversation. Then we'll open it up to questions from our members in the audience. And then we'll finish it up with our lightning round and finish it up with a moment of hope, and we will be gone at 2:45. So once again, the protocol is the same as always, but we are just here live. I'm going to start, Robert. You joined Abbott Labs in 1996, became president in 2018, and then it was announced in 2019 that you would be following the footsteps of Miles White, and you assumed the reins in March of 2020 as CEO, which coincides with this pandemic. That must have been an interesting time for you to ascend to the position that you had earned in such a volatile and unique time. Tell me a little bit about what that was like.
Well, I can say that I think everybody had a sense of, oh my God, what's going on? Over at least for the first 3 months, everybody got caught up with that. But listen, I would say it's been an amazing experience for the first year. If I think about kind of what kind of gets us through in a situation like that, I'd say first, I was handed over a company that was in amazing shape, incredible shape. We had great products, great people, great culture. So when you get into a situation like that, starting off at a really good, strong spot it was super important. I guess the second part also is you're only as good as you are as your team, and I had an incredible team during this period of transition. From support of the board to all the people in the C-suite to the people out in the field. So we really came together as one. So I think that was a huge advantage to kind of have that level of commitment and belief in the purpose and the moment of being called upon as a company, right, as a healthcare company. And then finally, I'd say family support, I think, for all of us that had to work long hours, have a completely different work environment, personal, over, coming together with business, all of that coming all together and really not having a distinction between what's family time, what's business time. So I had incredible support from my wife, my two boys. So I think the combination of those things really helped it be a pretty spectacular year and a year of a lot of learnings.
And I mean, it must have been remarkable in the sense of, we've been fortunate. We've talked to a lot of CEOs during the past, 18 months and talking about leadership and leading and change and learning how to operate from home and virtual environments and all that sort of stuff. But as you mentioned, you're leading a global healthcare company. Here's a company that's on the front lines, developing tests, protocols. This isn't just something waiting for people to respond and address the pandemic that we're in. You're out there saying we got to be part of the solution immediately, and this is your first 100 days in that chair. That must have been, was that added pressure in any way, or just because you had a great team, you were comfortable?
Well, obviously there's a lot of pressure, but it's the pressure of really recognizing that this is the time where Abbott is being called upon. A company that's been around for about over 130 years, solving a lot of healthcare problems, a lot of healthcare issues. Now you're confronted with probably the biggest healthcare crisis of our generation. So no doubt pressure, but I think the purpose and the mission as to why we're here. I spoke a lot to employees about that these were the times that Abbott gets called upon. This is why we're built for these moments, and I think that was kind of galvanizing for a lot of people. They really understood that this was time for Abbott to step up, as did a lot of healthcare companies.
Yeah, you weren't by yourself having to address everything, but your company needed to take a leading role in helping address and figure out how to test and everything else. And that led you to create and made available. Now you have the Binax Now COVID-19 rapid test. It's received emergency use authorization from the FDA, and it's now an at-home test. Tell us a little bit more about this product that you are so proud of and your company should be so proud of.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I would say is Binax is part of a suite of products. We actually developed 11 different tests for not only detecting the virus, so PCR methodology. I think we're all experts now in PCR, which I think is great, but also rapid molecular testing, which kind of does the same thing as what PCR is doing, but just at a more rapid pace, less throughput, more rapid result. And then we developed a series of antigen tests. Binax is one of them. We have another test for the international markets called PanBio, and it uses similar technology. And then the antibody tests, also important in that. So we really looked at our suite of diagnostic testing solutions and said, okay, we know that the virus has its life cycle, and we want to make sure that we've got testing solutions across the full spectrum, whether you're testing at a hospital, at an urgent care clinic, at a university, at the workplace, et cetera. So Binax was an interesting project because it actually started back in middle of April, where we said to ourselves, we need to develop a test that was going to help schools reopen. If you remember, we had all gone on shutdown, and not a lot of people were talking about the schools, but we knew that come July that this was going to be an issue. What are schools going to do to get back? And we didn't want the default to automatically be, we'll just go virtual for the fall. So we wanted to develop a test. And there were three key tenets to that development of that test. We wanted it to be reliable and at the same time easy to use. So it's a lateral flow technology. It's a technology that we use for HIV testing, malaria testing, Legionella, flu, etc. And it resembles a lot like a pregnancy test. You put a sample on this paper, the sample travels up this special paper, and it provides a result in the form of 2 lines, 1 line, etc. And pretty simple, easy to use. The reliability of the test is measured by its sensitivity as compared to like a PCR system is very good in that period where you're infectious. So between 2 and 7 to 10 days, it's got a correlation to a lab instrument of about between 85 and 95%. And there's been plenty of studies that have published this. So very reliable result, easy to use. So you don't have to use the nasal pharyngeal swab, which is all the way at the back. And when you think about kids going back to school, we thought that was going to be important. So it only uses a nasal swab, which is just kind of right in the beginning, in the front part of the nose. And you don't need an instrument, right? So it's much easier to deploy. So that was one key tenet, and Binax delivers on that. The second key thing we looked at was scale, and we knew that we were going to need a lot of tests. You can't. We set a pretty audacious target of having 50 million tests by June 15th. This was in the middle of April. And the amount of work that the Abbott team did to be able to set up new factories, new supply chains here in the U.S., we ended up missing that goal. We ended up delivering it in August, but still to do what we did in 4 months was pretty amazing. And what that scale allows you to then do is to do what's important, which is price it for access and affordability. If you're going to use this test on a routine basis, you don't want to be paying $200 every time you do it. So that allowed us to get to a cost profile of about $5, right? And then the third thing we wanted to make sure we did is we wanted to digitize it. We wanted to make sure that you could use your phone to be able to display your results. So what we did is we created an app called Navica. And what the Navica app does is you can download it for free. And what it does is it pairs the test to your phone so that you can receive your result on your phone. You don't have to wait around. And more importantly, it's a pass that says I was tested and I'm negative. So we were able to align all those three things and come out with that test with all those three aspects in August. And then in December, as you mentioned, we got approval to do all of that on a at-home basis. So we've partnered with a digital telehealth company called eMed. And what they do is they use these tests. So we ship these tests, and you can actually do the test with a digital proctor on the other side on the computer, not only showing you how to do the test right, but then they're the ones who actually input into your app whether you're negative or positive. So you actually have integrity in the system. So that test has worked very well. It's been deployed across the U.S. We've deployed it in international markets also. And we've got a significant amount of capacity to be able to execute that strategy around the world.
So walk me through this then. And again, for those of you who are joining us a little bit late, I am here with Robert Ford, CEO of Abbot, and a proud Boston College alum who has decided to come back to campus, socially distanced as we may be, but to be live together in front of an empty theater, which is a unique experience, certainly for me. But we are here, and Robert's talking to us about this COVID-19 at-home test that has developed. And you mentioned the term audacious as a goal for June delivery. You missed that, but hit it in August, which I think is impressive. You got FDA conditional approval or emergency approval in December. So walk me through. I'm now sitting at home, and I'm interested in getting one of these, taking the test. So this is something that am I able to purchase this today as a consumer?
So you can purchase it online through our partner eMed.
Okay.
They will eventually, hopefully, become available at the pharmacy. And we're also working with different governors from different states in which they will also be providing those tests. But I think the goal here is eventually that you'll be able to do a test at home with integrity, meaning that there's somebody on the other side that's watching you do it correctly and getting the right results.
So I take the test at home. I log onto eMed. I've got someone through video who's watching me do this. I take the test. I know what the results are, but I give them to eMed. eMed loads them up. I have it on my phone. And now if I want to go somewhere, I've got proof of a test in a percentage of reliability that you've mentioned already. And this is being used commercially already. I think is this something?
Yeah, this is available today through an at-home system. It's also available today through a lot of the states and a lot of the governors. A lot of the governors have been using these tests, deploying them to K through 12 schools. We've seen companies, workplace to be able to use this. We, in fact, use the same technology at Abbot. So we get tested twice a week and go through the same process. What's interesting is we work obviously with healthcare professionals as we do that testing. But our positivity rates, even at the peak of the fall and the winter, our positivity rates in our facilities were generally lower than the positivity rates around the surrounding area, which really shows the importance of testing to be able to identify cases and then let them quarantine at home.
And how does it work for the new sort of variants that people are starting to discover, uncover, identify? Is it picking that up as well, or is it something that you'll be updating the testing itself over time?
Yeah. So when we developed the test, we've got a lot of experience in infectious disease testing. Abbott was the first company to develop the first blood test for HIV back in the mid-'80s. So we have a really capable team. So we knew that as we were developing the test, we had to target specific areas of the virus that we knew would be less susceptible to variants. And We've done a lot of in silico modeling to show that even with the South Africa variant, the Brazilian variant, and the UK variant, that the test is, has that same sensitivity. And we've actually received samples from those countries and run them on our tests. The UK system tested our product, came back with a public report saying that the tests were very good at picking up those variants. So, we stay vigilant. We have a team at Abbot called the Virus Hunters. They've been in business unfortunately for some time, and they know how to chase viruses, and they know how to chase variants. So I'm super confident that we've got the right team, constantly vigilant, looking at this.
The Abbott Virus Hunters. It sounds like a new Netflix documentary that I can watch in and binge over the weekend.
There you go. Yeah, that's maybe an idea right there.
Yeah, fantastic. We'll make sure that the proceeds find their way to Boston College. In a broader perspective, right, Abbott has been leading the charge on connected healthcare, trying to get closer to the patients. And the COVID testing that you've developed is just one arm of all sorts of innovations that Abbott has led in terms of technologies. You've addressed everything from heart failure to type 1 diabetes to chronic pain, movement disorders, recently approval for the first ever handheld blood test to detect traumatic brain injuries such as concussions. Could you give us a little bit of detail on some of these innovations and how you see patients' lives improving because of them and the great work of your employees and colleagues at Abbott?
Yeah, so it's clear that you see this convergence of healthcare and digital technology happening. They're coming together, and there are a variety of different ways to look at how that convergence is ultimately going to play a role. What we've tried to do is we've tried to use that convergence with a lot of our products to ultimately, we believe that connectivity will allow the consumer to have better insights and be more empowered to managing their health. So we started this several years back with our medical device portfolio. And as you said, we have a portfolio of products that range from cardiovascular treatment to neuromodulation and diabetes, et cetera, where a lot of these devices get implanted into the body. And there's not a lot of information that comes out of that device to the consumer. So connecting those devices to your phone and in a way that provides the lay consumer with actionable, easy to understand information about their device and ultimately about their body. That's what we've set out to do, and the results are incredible. If you look at our diabetes glucose monitoring device, Freestyle Libre, that's connected to the phone, and the traditional way of doing it is you prick your finger and you get that one result during that one time. Now with Libre, what you get is a constant stream of data, and you get to see on your phone patterns, and you get to see them clearly. One of the things that we've always heard is nobody knew what happened at night. Nobody was waking up at 2, 3 a.m. in the morning to prick their fingers. Not a lot of people, at least. But if you wake up in the morning and you take your phone and you scan it, the first thing you do before you get out of bed, you'll be able to see the last 8 hours and what happened overnight. And the insights that provides the physician for sure, but more importantly, the consumer and the patient, they can see what's happening to their body. Diabetes is one example. Heart failure with CardioMEMS is another product where we do that. Our pacemakers are doing that. We just launched a product called Galant that interacts with your phone via Bluetooth. So I'm a big believer of that, and Abbott is leading the way there. And we took that same philosophy as we started to develop the diagnostic test and applied that in the concept of Navica. So we're going to lead the way in that connectiveness, and you'll see that across all of our products.
So as Abbott leads the way, what will sort of post-pandemic diagnostic look like? Right? Are you expecting all sorts of companies to be following this suit, and so everything's going to be more connected? It's going to be more stuff that you're doing at home. What do you see? Will this pandemic sort of shape how diagnostic testing is where the future of diagnostic testing? I guess it's a poorly worded question, but
I think that what you'll see is, and what we believe we'll see is a new channel of diagnostic testing emerge. I don't think it'll be a channel that will compete or take patients away from the hospital. Right now, a lot of our diagnostic testing is done in that setting, the hospital, the lab, and that will continue. But I think what will happen, on the other hand, is with these technologies that are out there, Binex, ID Now, which is a kind of rapid molecular test, the ability for you to be able to get your results faster and easier and have it on your phone, I think is going to be a trend. So we talk about, the decentralization, the democratization, and the digitization of testing, and I think that's a strategy that we believed was going to be the case. We bought a company back in 2017 who had a large round of products that fit into this category, and I think what COVID has done is just accelerated that strategy and brought that forward, several years. So right now, as we're seeding the market with COVID testing, we have our eye on, okay, what does that word look like? So if you think about the channels, for example, you have airports doing testing, you have hotels doing testing, you even have restaurants doing testing, and I don't think that they're going to be trying to compete with laboratories doing testing, but it'll be a new channel that'll emerge. It'll be a new behavior that'll emerge, and everything we're doing with COVID and seeding that market is really with the eye on what is that going to look like for other tests. So we have flu tests, we have RSV tests, we have sexual transmitted disease tests. So all these other tests will then kind of fall into these channels that have emerged.
So is this going to be Orwellian in the sense of you're going out to dinner in the future and you've got your phone to showcase, here's everything I've been cleared of, from the flu to COVID to everything else? Or is it just more an opportunity for the consumer to have more information at their hands?
Yeah, I think it's more just having information at your hands. All right. I don't think you're going to have to go to a restaurant and say, hey, I've been cleared for flu. There are places around the world that actually do require you to show that to be able to go into the restaurant. Right. But I don't think it's the case. I just think it's more the case of I want to know this information, and I want to know it now, and I want it on my phone. I want to be able to interact with it digitally and real time. And I think that the channels that will emerge will allow that to happen.
Does that open up a host of privacy questions in terms of having all that data sort of on the phone? Is that anything that Abbott's concerned with, or is that something that you'll let the technology companies deal with, sort of the protocols and
well, no, I mean, I think there's as a healthcare company, HIPAA and privacy is been with us, whether you're using your phone or whether you're using an electronic medical record. So that has to be embedded into all the digital solutions that are created.
I'm going to change the tact a little bit and talk a little bit about some bigger picture issues at Abbott, but I do want to remind our audience that we will open it up to questions from our members at 2 o'clock. So if you've got questions, please post them in the chat or the Q&A, and I will be notified here on stage who's up next for the first question when we get going with that. But congratulations to Abbott. For the first time, you've been named one of the world's 50 most admired companies in Fortune magazine annual ranking as chosen by the business world. You've also been recognized for the 8th straight year as one of the most admired companies in your industry group. Something that obviously you're proud of. Is it something that has been part of the core values of the company over time? Is it something that you think your leadership has played any role in?
No, I mean, we're obviously very proud. This is not something that we wake up every day saying, hey, we want to be part of this list or that list. I think what's special about the Forbes list is that it's a voting of your peers. Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably what makes it special, is that these are your peers that look to you and say, well, this is a company that's been doing some groundbreaking stuff. I just think it's part of our culture of developing life-changing technologies and helping people live fuller lives, and doing everything we can to do that, and to be recognized by your peers as being one of the best at doing that. I think that's special. But this has been, Abbott has been being part of these rankings for quite some time now. So I would never take credit for that. I think it's really the Abbott people that are really what drive that.
Excellent. Today is International Women's Day, so I do want to mention that in 2012 you started a high school internship program, or Abbott did, towards engaging young women to explore STEM careers. Can you tell us a little bit about this program? And it's been going now for 9 years. How is it going? What sort of impact have you had?
I think this is one of our best programs. I think the problem here was recognizing the need for more STEM. If you look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics here in the U.S., it forecasts we need over 800,000 STEM workers by 2029. And studies showed that between the ages of 13 and 17, children lost interest in STEM. So, and both boys and girls, but especially girls. And we wanted to make sure that we reached out to the children in that period, in that continuum of education, to ensure that they didn't lose interest in it. So we created this internship program that was geared towards high school students. It was started in 2012. And these are real STEM related work. It's not getting coffee or filing work. It's real work. They get paid for it, and I think the results have been great. If you look at the people that have gone through, the kids that have gone through this program, 97% of them go on to study STEM in college and in universities. This last class that we did, 70% of the class that was enrolled was from diverse backgrounds. And about 75%, we started to hire the former children that went through the first program back in 2012. We're hiring them as as full-time engineers to work at Abbot, and 75% of them are either women or from diverse backgrounds. So I think this is a great program. We actually made the program available. We called it Shape the Future of STEM, and we put the blueprint out on how we did this program, and we made it public on our website, and it's been downloaded, by hundreds of companies in the S&P 500, technology, healthcare, etc. We think it's a great program, and it's really focused at ensuring that kids don't lose interest in something that they, when they were a little bit younger, felt compelled by it. So to keep that passion going, so we're proud of that program.
That's fantastic. I mean, the thought of doing something good, making the world better, educating, and then reaping the benefits in many ways of having the opportunity to hire some of these kids, young adults now, to have them sort of be that next round and keep this virtuous cycle going must just be fantastic.
It's super special to know that kids that went through this internship program back in 2012, 2013 are actually now coming into every day to the office to do this work on a full-time basis. I think that's super special.
That's fantastic. So I think we're at the point in our time where I'm going to open it up to our members for